Class, I'm Mrs. Twig. If you have Miss Fagursky or Miss Busker, don't worry. The three of us are working together, remotely that is, but together, on this curriculum.
What you see on your screen now are the 5 chapters that we have to cover in Algebra B. Before we were dismissed, we covered the first half of Chapter 7, but as you can see, we still have quite a few lessons remaining. So what we have decided to do is cover a few of the lessons during our time off with a video and some example problems, and that way when we return, we don't have as much that we'll need to get caught up on. So please take the time to watch the video and practice the problems. Always feel free to email your teacher if you have any questions.
Hello class, today we're going to do our first video, and today we're going to cover 11.1, which is really just an introduction to statistics. Now please know that this is really just an introduction, so if you really like stats, it might be worth looking into the AP Stats class that we offer, but this is just to kind of give you some basic vocabulary words and some knowledge of it. So as you can tell here, we have 6 different vocabulary words, and I don't think it's important for you to write all these down. You could always reference the video later. Now, the mean of a set is also sometimes called the average. This is the symbol that you're going to see us use in the calculator, okay? But basically what we want to do when we're given a set of data, so for example, I could show you a set of data like right here, okay? So if you're asked to find the mean of this set of data, what we would need to do is get the total or the sum, and then we would need to divide how many are in the set, so we'd have to count up how many are in the set, and that would give us our mean, and that's the symbol we use. Now, the median is the middle number. Now, the only hard part with this one is the set does have to be in order. So we would have to take this set that we have right here, and we'd have to find the lowest number, which would be the 48, and then we'd have to put them in order and then find the middle of it, okay? And we are going to do another example in just a little bit. Now the mode. The mode is the number that occurs most often. Now sometimes a set does not have a mode. So if a number is not repeated, so if I'm just kind of quickly glancing through this set, I'm not noticing, unless I'm going too fast here, anything being repeated. So sometimes you don't even have a mode. So if there isn't a mode, you can either say none, or you can say like NA, or there can be more than one mode. Sometimes you'll have a number that repeats, like you'll have 2 5s and 2 10s. That's okay, you can have 2 modes as well. Outlier. An outlier is either the higher or the lower number in regards to the set. So it's just kind of a number that doesn't necessarily fit in. So if we look at this set again, would we say there's an outlier? For me personally, I guess I would probably say that there isn't, because if you look, we would have 48 would be our lowest, and then 78 would be our highest. So if we look, we've got 78, we also have a 75. So to me, this isn't really an outlier. We have a 48, which is our lowest, but we also have, what, a 54? So, you know, when you look at that, that's only 6 away. So again, sometimes outliers can be difficult because some people might say, well, maybe this one is because it's 6 away. And other people might say, you know, 6 inches is not that big of a deal. So outliers, you know, there's a little bit of gray area with those as well. So we will be flexible on that. Measure of center. You're going to hear them ask you for what is the measure of center. And when they ask you this question, they're looking for you to answer either mean, median, or mode. And basically they're asking you which one of these words best represents the data. Okay? And you'll kind of hear me talk more about this as we do an example, but here's the key piece. This is how you know which one to choose. If there's not an outlier, that's when you choose the mean. If there is an outlier, you choose the median. So basically, if you have a set of numbers like the one we had above here, we would probably pick either mean or median. Now, if it was me, when I look at this, I would probably pick mean because I would probably say there is not an outlier. However, again, I do think there might be a valid argument for somebody saying that there is. So again, there's a little bit of gray area there. Now, mode, you only choose if it's non-numerical. It's kind of weird that they put it in this set because in our chapter, in chapter 11, we have all numerical sets. We don't even have any non-numerical. So a non-numerical set would be like if somebody asked you for what's your favorite like pizza topping. And so, you know, there was a list of pepperoni, mushrooms, onion. That would be non-numerical, but we don't actually have those in chapter 11. So really, don't ever pick mode. Now they might ask you to calculate the mode, but when you're dealing with measure of center, really, you're just picking between these two, okay? And then the last one you probably remember, or you've done before, is range. So range, if you remember, you just need to take the highest minus the lowest number of the set, okay? So what I'd like to do is just go through an example or two with you here and then have you practice a few on your own. So notice we're given a set of data. So they're asking us to find 5 pieces of information, and then notice the question down below is measure of center. So first thing we want to do is find the mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add them all together, and this just happens to be the graphing calculator that I have at home here. So I'm using an 83, but that's okay. So if you notice, I just added them all together, and I got a total of 46. And if I count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 9. And I get about 5.1 repeating. Now, to find the median, I would need to put these in order. So let me go ahead and do that. Sometimes I kind of forget which ones I've used, so I like to cross them off. I had a couple more 2s. I can squeeze them in here. Another 2. Another 2, and then I have a 6 and a 7 and a 16. Okay, so sorry about that. There's my set. Okay, that's why sometimes I like to cross them off to know which ones I've used. So I used the 6, the 7, and the 16. All right, so I know there's 9 numbers in this set, which means that the halfway point must be 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This must be my halfway, because notice I have 4 numbers here and I have 4 numbers here. So that means that this must be my median. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 4 here. And then the mode, to be honest with you, I kind of recognized the mode when I was writing them out, because notice there's 3 2s. Nobody else is repeated that many times. So the mode would be a 2. Then they're asking me for the outlier. So the outlier would be a number that's either really low or really high. Now again, there's some gray area here, but I would probably consider 16 to be an outlier. If this was ages, that's a pretty big age gap there. So it kind of just depends sometimes on what the set relates to. Now, the range. The range is going to be my high number minus my low number. So 16 minus 2 would give me my range of 14. Okay? Now it says, determine whether which measure of center best represents it. To be honest with you, you pretty much answered this question right here. If you said that there is an outlier, then based on our chart up here, since there's an outlier, we want to choose the median. And that's kind of the reason why, okay? Now I would like to show you how to do this in your calculator as well. Now, some of you may not have the calculator at home, but maybe you can just kind of watch and follow along here. So with a graphing calculator, what you're going to do is go to the stat key, and then right where it says edit, you'll push enter. And then where it says list 1, and if you don't have list 1, that's a whole nother discussion, but you can maybe email your teacher and we can help you. But when you see list 1, you're going to enter the numbers in, and you don't have to enter them in any order. You just want to enter, push enter in between each one. Okay, so notice how I have them all entered in, and notice I can tell if I move my cursor up, I had 9 in this set, so I know I have it right. So what I've done is I've put them in. I want to use the same stat key, so go stat, and this time I want to move over to the word calculate. And then you want to choose one variable statistics, and you might remember we did this in Algebra A when we did lines of best fit, so it's very similar. So we're going to choose one variable. Now, if you have a newer calculator, you might see a window pop up and then you have to go all the way down to the word calculate. But when you get here, you want to basically hit enter until you get a screen that looks like this, okay? Now, we are not allowed to edit this screen, so you just got to deal with what's on here. This right there, remember we talked about in our vocabulary at the top of the page, remember that's the symbol that they use for mean or average. And if you notice, that was the same number that we calculated, okay? Don't worry about these next ones. There's not really anything we can do about those. N is the number that you had in the set. So remember there was 9 numbers in the set. If we scroll down, notice there's our median. These other numbers in here are used for other pieces of statistical information. It's just we don't need them in today's lesson. The calculator cannot do mode. The calculator does not do outlier. The calculator sort of does range. If you notice, it will give you the max and the min. So notice it's a quick, easy subtraction, so you can always kind of tell. All right, so that's kind of how you can do it by hand, and you can do it by calculator. In this chapter, we do not have a no calculator part of the test. So if you want to use your calculator, feel free, but I always like to show you how to do them by hand as well. Now, you're going to probably see sometimes in your other problems, potentially, it might talk about how the outlier will affect it, okay? So we might have to get into that discussion once we get back. But there's 2 more problems I'd like to show you. 2 questions that are kind of phrased like this. They're going to give you a relatively small set of data. Notice it doesn't have a lot of problems to it, but the one of the pieces is going to be missing. So notice in number 2, they're talking about the mean, where in number 3, they're talking about the median. So it's really important that you know the difference. So the mean is the average. So what we need to do is we need to add these together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add up the numbers, but I can't type this one in. So let's get a total of the 3, which is 42. So these 3 total 42, but I do have this missing number. Okay, so this is the sum of them together. Notice there's 4 numbers in the set, and that will give me the mean. So do you see how I've created an equation? Once you have your equation, now you just need to solve for your missing variable. So we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 4. So we're going to go 7.5 times 4, and we get 30. So these will cancel. And now we're going to move the 42 to the other side. And so we get x to be negative 12. Now, if we wanted just a quick check our answer just to make sure, let's go 42 plus negative 12, and then we're going to divide by how many were in the set, and notice it gives us the right answer. So we know we've done it correct, okay? So this is what you do if it's a mean. Now, in number 3, they're asking you for median. So remember, median is the middle. Now, if this is the middle, let's take a look. There's 4 numbers in the set. That means the middle would have to be right here. So this number would be 29. Now there's a couple ways I can show you how to do this. There's kind of a longer way and a shorter way. Everybody kind of wants the short way, but let me show you the longer way first. If you add these 2 together, so 22 plus x, and you find the middle, then that's going to give you the 29. Okay, so notice how I kind of created a similar problem. So now I would need to solve this. Here's the other way to do it. Ask yourself, how much do you have to add from 22 to get to 29? So hopefully you're saying, well, I would add 7. Well, then all you got to do is add 7 on this side. So 29 plus 7 would be 36. Now, let me go over here and solve this and see if we get the same number. If I times both sides by the denominator, so if I take 29 times 2, I get 58. And then I'm going to subtract the 22. And look at that. I got the same number. Okay? So in math class, you're always going to get one right answer, but sometimes how you get there can be different. Okay, so hopefully this helped.